From becoming the #1 pick of the 2023 NBA draft to the Spurs having a terrible roster. Here's the real reason why Victor Wembanyama is going to be a flop in the NBA.
He's just accomplishing something that I've been dreaming of, my whole life. Hearing that sentence from Adam Silver,
It's not easy being the #1 pick, and living up to those expectations can be fatal to your career before it even begins. Check out the #1 picks in recent NBA history, and there's a common theme, no?
And I was just told that they were waiting to work with me, and yeah, they just wanted to.
Karl Anthony Towns was the first pick of the 2015 draft, but is he the best player from his draft class? I doubt it. Devin Booker's gone past him in terms of impact, while Kristaps Porzingis has been a special addition to the NBA too, and would have made a bigger name for himself if not for injuries.
I'm gonna give 100%, make all that's in my power to make this franchise win,
Move on to the 2016 draft, and the #1 pick was Ben Simmons, who might just be the closest comparison to Wembanyama, considering he also came from overseas and was hyped just as much as Victor, if not more. As good as Mark Fultz has been since the 2022-23 season, he definitely ain't the best player in his draft class, with everyone from Jason Tatum, De'Aaron Fox, Lauri Markkanen, to Donovan Mitchell being better than him. Luka Doncic is easily the best player, and he went third, with DeAndre Ayton being considered something of a bust, while Zion Williamson has been the most impressive #1 pick in recent years. But because of his off-court drama, fans fear they might never get to see the best version of Zion. It's too early to judge the likes of Anthony Edwards, Cade Cunningham, and Paolo Banchero, but they aren't outright the best players of their draft class either. At least not right now. Why do we think Victor's going to be a different case then? Handling the #1 pressure isn't easy, and it gets tougher when you factor in just how much hype Wemby's had to deal with. Only Simmons had as much hype as Wembanyama, but going further back, there's only one name that comes to mind in terms of hype before making it to the NBA. Yep, I'm talking about LeBron James.
Tonight I want to use this moment to just say something that I've said a million times, and I would never get sick of talking about it. I love this game. I love the game of basketball.
And maybe he's the only one who had more fans and analysts going crazy over him than Wembanyama in NBA history. If you ask me, I think Wemby's had to deal with a bigger audience before making it to the NBA because of social media. But the expectations from LeBron were much higher. Don't get me wrong. Fans are expecting everything and more from Victor too, and he's going to be held to a really high standard. To many analysts, that's the biggest reason why he won't make it big in the NBA. Calling him to flop before he even gets a chance to showcase his skill set in the league is absurd. But the problem here is there's way too much riding on him, and anything less than that gold standard's going to make him a bust. Think about it. With the hype he's generated, and it's through no fault of his own, I agree. Victor's got to be at least a 9 to 10 time All-Star, a multiple-time NBA champ, and at least a 2-time MVP. If he does all that, supporters and analysts will accept that Wembanyama justified his potential and hype, but anything less than that, and he'll be considered a total bust. In fact, the only way out of trouble for Victor is replicating what LeBron James did, and let's be honest, that's impossible to do.
They never talked to me really clearly about the NBA because there was such.
LeBron was making covers of sports magazines after graduating from high school. Do you know how crazy that is? For someone who never played college ball, the lowest level of expectations had him as the face of the NBA, a multiple-time NBA champ, and a multiple-time MVP. Not only did James meet those expectations, he exceeded them to a point where he's in the GOAT debate alongside Michael Jordan. That's the only way fans will warm up to the idea of Wembanyama being an all-timer. He'll need a lot of luck to win a championship early in his career if possible, and then maintain that individual level night in and night out for more than a decade. It's easier said than done though, because LeBron's the only player ever to handle the pressure, and even he was labeled a choker until his first championship win with the Heat. The King made it out alive from that low. How will Wembanyama respond when hell breaks loose and he loses an NBA final or doesn't show up in a crucial playoff game? It'll happen for sure, because even your LeBrons and MJs had off days, but it's the way they responded to those adversities that made them all-time greats. Does Wembanyama have that up his abnormally long sleeve? It's his only way out, and I have my reservation, because the odds are stacked against him. The sample size of one player in the last 2 or 3 decades is way too less to be optimistic about, and that's why many believe he'll flop.
Some players have tried to win the championship, win a ring for years and haven't made it, and I don't want to be one of those. So
There's also a physical factor that concerns analysts and fans alike. Wemby's attracted this much interest purely because of his physical attributes and profile. He's a 7'4" teenager with at least a couple of years more of growth in him, but the way he plays, it's staggering. I've never seen anything like this before. The handles of a point guard, and the height along with the willingness to compete for rebounds that you only find in center. Yet he doesn't want to play as a center. The Frenchman profiles as a forward, and that's where we're most likely to see him poly his trade for the San Antonio Spurs. Unfortunately, as great as his profile is, there's a huge problem regarding injuries. Simply put, any profile this unique is bound to get ravaged by injuries throughout their career. Look at Kristaps, the only player you can compare to Victor in terms of size. And don't even get me started on the number of injuries he's had to contend with.
2013, 2014, around that time. Yeah, this is my father's memory.
We'll go to the back, Victor.
Kevin Durant's another profile. He's much like the youngster when it comes to skill set and height, but even he's had his fair share of time spent on the sidelines. It's very hard to be certain that Wembanyama will remain injury-free, which is one of the biggest factors that need to go his way if he wants to come good on the talent he's got. There's nothing worse than injuries in sport, and as much as I hope his career doesn't get derailed due to physical troubles, this is something that'll always scare supporters and analysts. More importantly, there's also the NBA fear factor.
Yeah, not skipping the steps for me makes sense because it's an easy way. It's easy to make that mistake, and yeah, I'm glad I got.
Now, I know Vic's claimed he'll handle it easily, but what else was he going to say? He's not the only player to mention how NBA isn't the most physical league in the world, something that Doncic also talked about. But physicality isn't the only thing to worry about in the NBA. It's the league with the world's best talent, and playing every night against the best players in the world isn't going to be easy for Wembanyama. I'm sure it wasn't a walk in the park playing in the French Professional League, but Wembanyama's going to be in for a rude awakening when he makes his debut in the NBA. To make matters worse, he's going to be playing in the West, the tougher conference, with regular matches against the best the NBA has to offer. From LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, to potentially Damian Lillard, Luka Doncic, Nikola Jokic, and so many more. He's going to have it tough from the very first minute, and how Wemby handles the best will define how good he'll be in the NBA. The good thing is, he's got the mentality to stay and dominate the league, because he isn't a one-trick pony and focuses more on playing as a team player rather than showing off his individual skill. That'll be very important, because even with Greg Popovich extending his contract with the Spurs, San Antonio's got a terrible roster. Wemby's got control over most things when it comes to his legacy in the NBA, but even the very best players don't always get access to the best rosters or ambitious front offices. Look at Lillard trying to force his way out of Portland, or the way Braun had to leave the team that drafted him to win his first championship. Spurs have shown ambition in the past, but at the time of drafting Wemby, they had one of the weakest rosters in the NBA. They'll need to strengthen quite a bit and fast-track their rebuild if they want to get the best out of their new superstar. Pop staying gives them the best chance of maximizing Wembanyama's impact, but every trade and signing in the NBA is a risk. The Frenchman will need to pray it goes his way. So from the Spurs having a terrible roster to becoming the #1 pick of the 2023 NBA draft, that was the real reason why Victor Wembanyama is going to be a flop in the NBA.